Hello, gang. Welcome to Sketching with Izzy, Bathrobe Edition. Hope everybody's having a lovely Saturday. It's quite beautiful here today. Sun is out, but it's still freezing cold. Such is life. Chris, hello. Welcome. Okay, so last time we did this painting, I just set it up in the same canvas. I figured I would just do another quick sketch again. Something, hopefully under 2 hours. I had so much fun with this one. So I might do kind of a critter or something. I don't know. You guys can lean in, whatever you think. Chris, you've redeemed a pro walkthrough. Go ahead and pick any painting that I've done that you like and are curious about, and I'll see if I can find it and walk you through it. You'd like to know my process for the Artemis sketches I did for God of War Ascension. Let me find those. All right, so these are some crop-ins of those sketches. These are sketches that I did for a character design for God of War Ascension. This was really early on in the exploration process. We were talking about, prior to this God of War, if you're not familiar with it, it's a sword and sandals with magic kind of action platformer. Really heavy on the combat. I think it was M-rated. Like, it was one of the more extremely violent games that came out when it first came out, when I was playing the first one. So God of War Ascension is the fourth game in the series, and in this one I was a lead concept artist. And we were talking about doing multiplayer for God of War Ascension. That was the big change. And we hadn't really decided on where that multiplayer was going to go just yet. So this was really, really early in this discussion. This is when Andy Park was still on the project. Andy Park now is one of the leads at Marvel. So one of the projects, or one of the aspects of the multiplayer that we were talking about, was a co-op multiplayer where you would be able to play as a second character. The other aspect, which is what we ended up going with, was a multiplayer where it would be like multiplayer arena combat. It was well received, but there were so many other multiplayer games that kind of scratched that itch. I don't think that people really went to God of War for that, but the designers did a pretty good job with it. Anyway, so before we knew that we were going to go that route, we were toying with a co-op character, and Artemis was one of those concepts. Originally, Artemis was just meant to be kind of a standard female goddess, like traditional God of War type characters. Gray Voices, glad you could join. And so, oops, what do we do here? Okay, that was weird. We were just doing sketches of like a badass lady with a bow, because Artemis is the huntress, the goddess of the hunt, and I think fertility or something like that. And Andy did this really awesome sketch of her as a leotard, I think is what this is, half lion, half human, or like 3/4 lion, half human. It doesn't make much sense. But we ended up. I saw that painting. I was like, "This is really awesome, man. You mind if I do some sketches for it?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure, go for it." So I took that idea and I wanted to show kind of how dynamic the character could be. And at the time, I had been studying cats, doing drawings of cats and things like that, and I was very heavily influenced by Claire Wendling. So there's huge. If you look at her artwork, this is very much in her vein. She's a brilliant French comics artist and animation designer. She does really great figures and cats, and her shapes are just beautiful. So you should pick up, if you can get a hold of one of her books at Comic-Con or something like that, or get on Stuart Ing. Check out her sketchbooks. They're gorgeous. So anyway, that's what inspired the Artemis, or that's where I was coming from with that. I looked up pictures of cats. So reference-wise, I was looking up pictures of tigers in particular, but also lionesses that were playing. And I wanted to show like how dynamic those, as a big cat, how dynamic it could be. So what I would do is I would do these big sweeping action lines that would represent not just the body of the human. You can still see them in some of these sketches, but I would draw the sweeping action line all the way through the cat body and tail as well, and built out all of the, oops, sorry, I went too far. God damn you, you bitch. So the action line would go through the whole thing, and then I would draw out the figure according to that action line. I remember that I wanted to join the hips to the shoulders so that you would get that smooth transition like you would get from the neck, and because traditionally with like centaurs, the torso goes into the neck. So she's actually longer in the human side than is normal for the like the combined creatures of this kind of myth. And that was purposeful so that I could get that sweeping hip shape that goes right into the neck. And I felt it looked more natural than a torso going right into the neck itself. So yeah, that's kind of the idea there. So one thing you're curious is, how do you match the actions of the human half with the lion half so that it looks like a cohesive creature? That's pretty much exactly it right there. That was the idea, is looking for transitional shapes that would be harmonious and that would allow for that kind of more natural serpentine shape to follow through. I really don't think that you could do it any other way. I think that even with the centaur, you have to do it hips to neck, because it's just that torso to neck is such a stiff and broken shape. There's a reel that Dennis Pena did that had this creature animated as well. Really? That had this one here? I didn't see that. I'll have to look that up. See if you can find a link. That's dope. Anyway, so does that answer your question with Artemis? It was a very fun creature to design. We did end up skipping on it. We wanted to get bang for our buck with the multiplayer, so we did the arena thing. But the other thing that became a big issue with Artemis when we were in game and doing tests is movement. So the animators are great. Kova, don't do that. The animators on the Sony Santa Monica team are some of the best on the planet. They're really great animators. And they were able to animate the character just fine. Our problem was we had a third-person camera that's usually pretty far away, and we needed the creature to kind of move around things and feel natural. But anytime you have, because when you're building out animations and you're building out characters or creatures that are moving around in an environment, what you're doing is you're animating them in a single spot. So the walk cycle is like this. And what you're really doing is you're taking that actor and you are moving them through that space so that it matches the movement. And it looks like they're walking and their movement is propelling them through a space. They're ghosts interacting and dancing with ghosts. And there is no real touching. It's a lot of mime. It's only mime, honestly. So one of the biggest problems with a creature that has 4 legs and a long body that's really supine like this, not supine, serpentine like this, is that she would need to move around like really smoothly through the environment, and because the player is controlling it, it's not AI. You would need her if you wanted to do a quick turn. She would have to turn her whole body, so the head would turn and then the body would follow, and it was this whole problem with the delay that would happen and how she would basically look like she was floating in place, because again, that you would have to move the legs. Yeah, and even honestly, it's a thing that you see normally in games. We're used to it, but for a creature that's this big, where the legs are this far apart, it would show way too much. But there's this thing that we kind of cheat. When you stand in place as a human in real space and you start to rotate or move around, you move your legs, you tilt your body, you do all of this stuff. But when you're doing it with a ghost in a ghost world, what we kind of do is we show kind of a hint at the animation of the character turning, but then we also just kind of rotate the character. And some games, they don't even bother with using the feet to show that they're moving or rotating around by tilting their shoulders. They just smoothly turn like this, right? And like on a lazy Susan, yeah. So you can get away with that. We've kind of come to accept that as just like the gamification of reality. But when you have a creature that's this big and has four legs that are very spread apart, to do that kind of rotation looks really bad, really bad. And so that was one of the major contributing factors, was just that we could not get her to rotate in space and get it to look good without being too gamey and flat, which would kill the suspension of disbelief of you being a three-dimensional creature moving in three-dimensional space. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into the game design things that you don't even think about, that can completely change how a game turns out. Because if we had done Artemis for God of War Ascension, it would have been a completely different game. So right there is a huge change in how games operate. And this is also why it's so important to prototype when you're doing games. All right, so we'll put that away. Matching the root movements with the animation cycles. Yeah, Chris, oh, you're an animator, of course, Chris Annam. Yeah, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. But hopefully that was informative for everybody else. Adelheid, welcome. How's it going? You digging the robe? This is I'm dressing up for the Twitch today. I was up late fucking around with my Oculus. So I could not be fucked. All right, so back to our critter here. Thank you for redeeming the pro walkthrough, Chris Annam. That was an interesting little aside there. And yeah, Chris, if you are I think you're in the Discord, right? Could you drop a link to what was his name? Dennis Pena's animation? I would love to see what he did with it. That would be quite cool. Yeah, we did not even get as far as fully animating the rig for the creature. What they did is they did the gray sculpt. So she was still in kind of T-pose and just really rough movement. It was super rough. But I think that, like, as a standalone animation, Artemis would be an awesome character in a scene. So hopefully somebody does something with it. I think it might even be fun to go back and do some, like 2D animation with her. That might be entertaining. Every now and then I get this weird wild hair and I just want to animate. And so I'll do these little tiny shorts of silly animated creatures or characters doing things. I love the art of animation quite a bit. It's just so time consuming. And as we all know, laziness is a massive character flaw / asset of mine. And with that, just painting it is always easier for me. It's just faster. I don't need to labor over anything for days and days. Like if I'm doing an animation, it has to be done in a day. I can't go back and keep working on it. Weirdly, one of my very first jobs was in animation. Do not know what I'm doing here, but it's definitely going to be upsetting for some people. You really dig those drawings? You're heading into the month of drawing instead of painting. That's awesome. You're doing the what is it? Figuary, right? Figuary. I don't know. The Claire Wendling is inspiration is. Oh yeah, totally. No, I unabashedly was using her stylization to do that. And I think I've told you guys many times to mix work with study. And so that's a prime example of me mixing work and study. I purposefully chose to do it in her style so that I could study the aspects of her line work that I really liked. Figuary, okay. These proportions are very similar to my chubby sauruses, so I need to do something to change that a little bit. Irina, hi, welcome. Glad you could join. You're not super late. We just got started. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to work out the contours for these heads later. One of the things I do like by doing this lasso method is you end up with some contours you didn't necessarily expect. They kind of break your, because it's a little more wobbly and a little less controlled than a line, they can break your habitual shapes and structures just a little bit, give you a little more variety. Damien, Fire Eagle, thank you so much for that follow. Glad you could join today. Oops. Just using like a real simple calligraphy line. I like this one because I get nice line thickness variation and a little bit of rotation with the brush, but also it handles a nice hard edge while still letting me be very careful about opacity. So I can press really lightly, but I still get those nice like calligraphic effects even when I press lightly versus hard. It's great. This is a great brush. Very common. It's in all of the standard concept art collections out there. We're definitely going more line work this time. I like to go back and forth because I don't like to I don't like to solve problems the same way every time. I get bored really easily with routine. So I'll oscillate back and forth between line work origination for a character or creature, and then also doing it straight from paint. We did paint last time with the girl in the pool or whatever that was. Sure, that's clearly a separate object in the distance. Let's do another layer and kind of add some flora or fauna. Might be interesting to... I find when I'm doing something that's totally alien, it can help to have rhythms that are similar between the designs. So maybe these are like really weird succulent type plants that have lots of little nodules or heads, like our frog hydra or whatever that is there. We certainly won't be able to finish this today because we're doing an environment and we're doing like lighting and everything, but I think we'll have a really solid start. We're only about a half an hour in, and we've got a design and an environment sorted. So this is pretty good for me. That's pretty quick. How's my plant doing? The plant is doing pretty well. It started cupping recently, so I just gave it some fresh water, and it seems to be happy. It is alive. It only has a couple of leaves with little tiny brown edge on them, but those are where I clipped bigger brown bits off. So hopefully that works. The legendary Herpesaurus. I love it. That's precisely what this will be. What time do I start now on Saturdays? You thought it was 10 minutes ago. Saturdays are kind of an open thing, so it's going to be around noon. It's never really a sure time, and I have a feeling, honestly, the rest of our sessions going into the future will be the same. So I think I will probably be losing my affiliate status because I won't be able to do 3 times a week every week. Just the new job is going to be requiring way too much of me. Will it be featuring weeping sores? Probably not. We'll say this is just the budding phase. But it will be very shiny because it's an Izzy painting. And you know that's what we do. We do shiny stuff. We just coat everything in Crisco, rub it down, put it under a heat lamp for about 10 minutes, and then you have an Izzy painting. All right, let's do some color. Well, no, let's do a lighting pass real quick, just to figure out where our lights are going to be. Now, shall we do it by adding light or by adding dark? I think this is going to be kind of a really messed up dark painting, although the last one was pretty dark. Maybe we should do a messed up light painting. Let's start with light and see how it looks. So that's not going to work. We're going to have to do this side maybe. Little blister heads all over the place. So if we're going to be doing sort of the broad side of these mountain and hills getting all the light, then my sky needs to go darker, I think. Just for something to contrast against. I am doing this screen layer all on one layer, but you'll see why shortly. Let's go a little bit brighter. Well, the why actually is pretty straightforward. The why is it's much easier to just paint the whole painting and figure out the lighting all on one layer. But what I'll end up doing is separating it so that it's affecting the background and affecting the characters separately, so that then I can go back to the silhouette, because the silhouette's easier to manage, so you can maintain your edges. Adding to my list of responsibilities, I think there's a good chance I'll be joining a new gaming group. So a Zoom-based D&D 5th edition. I just met with the DM last night. Seems like a really cool guy. Has a fun game. We talked about a character. I like building characters out from the background first, and then that decides everything else. And the character that I'll most likely be playing if I can join up is effectively Klaus from Umbrella Academy. It's gonna be so much fun. I can't wait. Yeah, they meet every other Sunday, so that'll be good. But it's been a while since I've been on a regular game crew, so I think it'll be nice. It's all guys my age. The last couple of groups that and they're all uber nerds and have been gaming their entire lives. So the last couple of groups that I've played in have been very noob heavy, which is fine. I don't mind playing with noobs and kind of showing them the ropes. But it'll be interesting with me being the least experienced gamer at the table this time. Okay, I think that's good enough lighting for where we're at. So you see here, I'm going to clip just to my guy for that, and then I'm going to drop it below, and now that's the environment. I can even delete where I painted the guy in. So now I can add light behind the figure, since his cast shadow shouldn't necessarily affect all of these plants. I don't know, maybe it should. Maybe he should be gigantic. It'd be kind of fun. Okay, and the other thing I want to do is get back here to the sky. You know, let's just do it on the same layer as the plants. No, we're going to do it on another layer because I'm going to need to do some soft stuff. Let's do an airbrush. Oops, nope. Just erase back out. I'm not erasing super hard back here because I want these to pick up some of that atmosphere. Okay. All right, so now we have some lighting. We've got line work. We've got a rough design for the character. 40 minutes, not bad. How do I find these games? Well, okay, so the last two games that I was in, one were a group that I played with a lot in high school and like early adulthood, way back in the day. And then now that I'm back in Oregon, nearby where they're at, I joined them for a little while. Those games ended up getting canceled. The one before that was the one that I was playing in Puerto Vallarta with a new friend that I'd made who also worked in the games industry. But that one kind of dissolved just because a lot of the players were new and they were struggling with the fortitude of sitting at the table for a while, and then being in Zoom, it was just basically the end of it. They couldn't keep the faith. So it happens. This new group I met through the one of the players that I have played with up here in Oregon regularly. He was DMing the last game that ended up getting canceled. He invited me to this one where these are his friends that he's been playing with for years. So I'm the outsider. I only know the one guy, and the rest I'll get to meet along the way, and they will have to deal with Klaus, which is going to be hilarious. I am not going to make a lot of friends. That's going to be a fun-ass character to play, I'm telling you. The premise that we built so far is, so he's like a street kid that came up. Yeah, I'm on Roll20 as well. I think I'm just Izzy Medrano on there. You guys can add me up. The character is sort of an expat from another country. where they're a little bit more authoritarian, and he obviously didn't get on very well there. Uh, After escaping their re-education camps, he goes out into the wilderness and kind of accidentally, much like Klaus did, became the leader of a cult. And so where this character is coming into the game is he's just been expunged from the cult because they realize he doesn't actually have any powers. So it's a rags to riches to rags story that I'm starting with, which I'm excited. I think it'll be a pretty funny, entertaining character to add to a pretty somber squad. My friend, and I didn't even realize this until after we'd planned out the character and we were talking about like funny things that might be interesting for background and things like that. And then he was like, you know this? Have you ever watched Umbrella Academy? This sounds just like Klaus. I was like, holy shit, you're totally right. That's basically who this is. And we were like, let's just do it. We're gonna have him basically modeled on Klaus. So I built the whole character around that. And then I realized my friend, who's the one that brought me into this game, is a lot of the characters that he plays, and I don't remember the name of the character from Umbrella Academy, but a lot of the characters he plays are really big, badass, stoic guys, like the eldest brother in Umbrella Academy. So it's going to be like they're going to be totally at ends. They're perfect foils for each other because they're very similar in some ways, and then in others, in their abilities they're similar, but in their outlook they're totally opposite. So it's going to be an interesting conflict. You haven't seen Umbrella Academy? Do I recommend it? Adelheid, I totally recommend it. It's a great show. It has, you gotta kind of accept, just go into the first episodes of it, just accepting the nonsense magic of the world, and fall in love with the characters first. The magic will make sense later, but it makes no sense in the beginning. It's very confusing. Just go in for the characters. Kova! Enough! That dog. I swear to God. You can look for a group and apply. Oh, nice. I haven't done any of that. I've always just been invited to the group first, but it sounds like that's a great way to go about it. How are we on time? An hour. Okay. Let's do a quick colorize layer. There's not enough color on this one to use, but maybe we can use a chunk of it. Let's grab this part. Brent Hollowell, thank you so much for that follow. Glad you could join us. All right. Why am I getting little jiggles here? What is happening? Why are you doing this to me? This is traditionally very even. Well, we'll just deal with it for now. Okay, back to our character, or critter, whatever this is. Definitely want to mix a variety of colors here that are very kind of noxious looking. Let's get some oranges in. It's kind of making me think of those frogs that get that parasite fly that lays eggs in the noses, so their nostrils are all these huge holes with little maggots in. Oh my God, so gross. Parasites. Ugh. No me gusta. You're welcome. You can look those up right now. Go look them up, Irina. Gonna blow your mind. I don't know why. I don't know why you keep coming. I have only promised you pain. Such a hard life y'all lead. Let's grab this kind of pustulant color and let's apply it to all of our plants. Maybe there's something to that in this world. The plant and infection relationship. You're not Googling the toad fly or whatever it is? Come on, Irina. Live a little. Just before bed. That's the best time to see the things I recommend. Brent, been following my work for a while. Love this stuff. Oh, you've picked up the Gumroad videos. Awesome. I'm so glad those have been helpful for you. Great. This is so upsetting in all the best ways. Poor Irina. I don't know how you haven't seen these things. I feel like they're just everywhere, you know? All right. This channel hits differently when you've got a hangover? Yeah, I imagine it does. Okay, good enough for now. Let's grab it and clip to you. Drop it behind. Great. Okay. Moving along, let's do a multiply layer. It's not that gross, right? Rock Dace, thank you so much for that follow. Appreciate that. Wait until we start painting the glistening parts. It's going to get so much worse with the hangover, I think. Is there a face under the pus? Oh, my friend. The pus is the face. Oh, my goodness. I'm just figuring out some essential form shadows, cast shadows. We've got a cross lighting. I think it's going to come from this side. Kova! Stop! Fuck. We're just outside. We played soccer for half an hour. She's so bratty sometimes. I think her trigger is just like people talking in a room she's not in. She's got FOMO so damn bad. see if she wants to come in. The pus is the pus verse. Wow, I love it. Must be legendary to play D&D with Izzy. Oh my god. Yeah. Well, so luckily I end up in a lot of games where a lot of people are like me. So imagine a game where everyone is an Izzy. Yeah, we're gonna check on the puppy and see what she wants. One moment. Actually, now that I think about it, this is not attached to my computer. It's attached to my phone. Boba! Boba! Come on. Get in here. Come on. You don't have to be alone. Forever alone. There you go. Nope. Move. Move. Oh. It's like having a log with legs. Go on, go home. You wanted attention. Go home. There you go. Now you're in the room where noise is happening. Okay. Back to the point. No, go home. Go lay down. Go on. Go home. Or just stand there and stare at me. That's fine too. Let's get some more color variation, I think, in this section. Uh-oh, we lost our selection there. Now she wants to go back outside. Oh, dog. No. Kova, go home. Go on. It's the go home for you. You going home? A Mason. Hi, welcome. Is Kaina on right now? She's fun to watch. How do I keep losing my selection? That's what I'm wondering. Okay, so that's figured out. Let's just drag that into our cast shadows. So what I'm doing here is I'm applying cast shadow and fill light at the same time. See how I have the cast shadow gradating into something lighter, but that lighter color is roughly my sky color. This is all by design. It's just to make my job easier. I'm being sharper edged, ambient occlusion, getting the darkest darks close to the caster of the shadow. Because these objects are in a cast shadow, it's going to be more ambient occlusion than a cast shadow of their own until they are outside of the cast shadow of my creature. Good girl. Okay, now we've done the multiply layer. Let's go ahead and grab these lines and put them on top of everything else. Turn them way down. Okay, so all the roots of the painting are there now. That's an hour. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. Oops. So let's go ahead and start doing some opaques. Thanks so much, Mason. I'm glad you dig it. Is this creature born this way? Hell yeah. Okay, so what we're gonna do for this, let's see, we gotta do, let's turn off the creature. So this is very much the kind of concept art formula for building out your image. You can see that how efficacious it is on account of speed. It goes very fast, getting the lighting, getting objects figured out, mapping the scene, and then being able to deconstruct it so that you can do your final painting quickly. This is when I've got a rush job on an illustration, I will absolutely go back to this method, this concept art method, and use that instead. Okay, so now we've got that. We can turn that off. And we have our sky. Why do you do this to me? You would get dizzy and pass out swiftly. The easy verse is no hell. Hell is a matter of perception. Okay, so you may see it on your screens, especially with the crunching down that happens, the compression for video, for streaming and things like that. But that kind of banding, I really don't like it. So one of the ways around it that I really enjoy is to hit it with a smudge brush that has an irregular shape, like this brush. You see how it's all kind of cloudy. And what that does is it helps me get rid of any soft airbrush banding that happens. Or at least it chunks it up and breaks it apart so it doesn't feel so digital looking. The other way to deal with this is to straight up just use brush strokes. Okay, that's enough for now. Let's start on the environment itself. Don't want to overpaint too much. Just scribbling in, trying to get local details for that area to kind of sell the scale. Easier said than done sometimes. You like these little pastel-y boys? Yeah, I'm a fan too sometimes. And it's a good challenge, I think, to try and break your regular color schemes. So I try to. I have colors that I love, of course, but it's a good challenge. Something to do that's different. Like I said, if it stagnates, I get bored real fast. Every single bump does have a face of its own. You didn't see his little eyes? He has 1,000 little eyes. Adelheid picked up on it before anybody. There's often, for me in particular, there's often a temptation to just try to minimize the detail on things in the background, and because I don't care about them. They're not important to me when it comes to doing the painting. I like the creature. I like whatever's going on in the foreground, that stuff. But by forcing myself to do this first and focusing on making sure that I'm getting the scale, getting some variety, it helps me kind of love on it a little bit, even though it's not something I really care about. It's just kind of like, oh, this can be kind of fun. And the important part is to just try to match the lighting. If I can get the lighting to feel correct on these distant objects. And I think what's going on here is probably I have too much contrast. So we can test it. Happens. All right, next layer. Let's do. This is meant to be an even more distant hill, so even less contrast, even less detail. And because it's kind of right there on the edge, I can get away with being pretty neglectful with it. I can head down to the corner store for some cigarettes and not come back until its 18th birthday. And drunkenly apologize to it. Now we need a little bit on top to separate these layers, this distant layer and the mid background. I need to really indicate that there's space happening in between. So I want to do something opaque relatively quite light. What these lines do is they give you a couple of different elements. When you're doing this kind of color variance and slight but sharp-edged value variance that's in the background, these very narrow layers, they're very narrow to imply the distance and their proximity to the horizon. When you have strong value shifts like that, it shows you that there's a material difference, like there's a grass versus dirt, or one of my favorites, it'll show you lighting differences where there might be clouds overhead that are creating little cast shadows, but because they're so far away, that space is so compressed towards the horizon, it just looks like a thin line. And it's a great way to sell the illusion of depth. And we can even do that, actually. We can take those lights and imply that there's little patches of the color variance, or the value variance on this brush is pretty sharp. It's an extreme, rather. But that's okay. Oh, that's a good color. Yep, that's working. Let's go ahead and make this a separate layer on top of that little banding of light. And we're going to kind of try and do the same thing that we did with these distant lines, but this time we're going to use a fill light to get that variance. We can even start right now. Our fill will probably be our sky. I'm blending just to get the color, so I can get a slightly darker color than the sky. There, I'm blending just because I want a soft edge. See how the smaller I get with the brush with those details back there and really controlling the values, the relative dark values to the relative light values can create that sense of scale with really minimal effort. All we're doing is just little tiny scribbles. I've ever had students who wanted to go the route of concept art, put in the time, did the studies and practice, but for whatever reason couldn't get there. Sure, yeah, but that has happened, but it's not usually the quality of their paintings that is what causes those that have been interested in that career trajectory have stumbled on. It is the lack of a voice more than anything, because you can learn. I mean, these skills are all things you can learn. It's really voice that I think is the most important thing. Voice, the ability to generate cool ideas. So if you're looking to go the concept art route, you should absolutely give it a shot, and challenge yourself with problem solving, because remember that concept art isn't about painting. Concept art is a problem solving design thing, and creative problem solving is huge. That's really the skill. And that can be learned too, just like painting. So by including these, I'm realizing that my bushes back here at the foothill are huge. They're still pretty big, but that's all right. You find that if people put in the time, it happens as eventuality regardless? Not necessarily. What I have discovered is that if you put in the time because you care about working in a creative field, or you put in the time because you want to do painting for a living, things like that, you will find a job that does that. It may not be concept art, it may not be animation, it may not be at Pixar, but just committing to a career in creativity where you get to vent that sort of thing, yeah, eventually I think you will find that it happens regardless. But setting a specific goal of a specific studio or specific projects can be limiting. So be careful about that, I'd say. Get in more light up here, and then I'll go back and add my weird succulent plants. I think here we can maybe even get into some texture-y stuff. before I forget it, I should definitely add some plants. Well, real quick, let's do a... Just put those two together, because why not? Do I get sometimes a feeling that you just can't take any more painting, or is it always something you love? Oh no, I had to punch myself in the face to even get on right now to paint. It's always a chore in some way. I mean, there's humans are averse to difficulty and suffering of any kind, so we'll do anything that will minimize that. And if you're tired and you're not feeling it, like, you just don't want to paint. So the difference between an artist that is doing it, you know, full on professionally, and this is true of anything. I mean, an artist in painting, a porn star, you know, an architect, whatever. It's being able to work through that and just going, okay, I know that I have these skills. I'm going to push through and just get started. And at a certain point, flow will kick in, and you can trust that it will. And even in this painting, even though it's not a great painting, even though it's not a great creature, there are points where the flow kicks in and I start feeling like less like it is a chore and more like I'm playing and having fun. So the key I've found is to understand that aspect of it. First of all, that being a professional means that you just go do it. Like, even though you're not inspired, like the whole concept of inspiration and what's the word I'm looking for? Shit, I'm totally spacing on this. I actually did a video of this on YouTube very early on in my YouTube career about the myth of like the muse. Like, you need the muse in order to work, and I highly recommend working against that myth, because it doesn't really help you, and it's going to end up you're going to that's where you get these artists that are like, I need to be drunk in order to work, or I need to have these specific situations in order to work. I have to be at this coffee shop with this light and this specific drink, and then I can work, and then everything is set. Now it's nice to set your space and have everything that you need to begin. But really, the big difference between somebody that's doing this professionally and somebody that's kind of doing it as a hobby is when push comes to shove, you just sit down and do it. It's not about loving it. Love doesn't even come into it. It's just you do the work, you get it out, and trust in your abilities and trust that the flow will come. And it is I hear you 100%. It is sometimes sometimes I just am disgusted at the prospect of having to do something like this. Like it does. I totally get you. It's just about working through that. If you can't, if you really can't, like if you have really completely hit your limit, then you need to take a break. There's that aspect too. Cypher mentioned burnout. It absolutely does happen, and it does happen in the creative field, and it does happen to professionals, and most of us understand it. So if you've truly hit something where you're completely burnt out, you can communicate that. You can try to mitigate it by just being sure that your clients or whoever knows what's going on, but you can't lean on that for very long. If you absolutely need like a day, you need like a self-care period, take it. But understand also that being a professional is partly you can't do that for very long. Autumn said something similar. Yeah. It's Saturday. Do I allow myself to have breaks and days off? I totally do. And sometimes I'll have breaks and days off when it's technically a work day. I will not demand of myself my premium best, and I will do something else that's related to it that is less demanding, isn't creatively draining, because that is something that happens. Like I know that there's this concept that with flow you're kind of energized. That's true. There is this feeling of being energized, but also being creative and making something is draining. It does take energy from you. I mean, that's part of the process. You're transferring this energy into a product of creative output. So it does take something out of you. So even finding your flow, you're still going to have periods where you're just beat, you're out of energy. So you got to take the time when you can take the time. Where this stuff gets really difficult and dangerous when it comes to just adulting is when your break from the creative activity results in work on something else. Like I really need a break from my painting. I just need a day away to refresh my eyes. So I need to relax. I need to go do something else. And then you end up just running errands and doing chores. You're still working, you're still expending energy, so you're not really getting that recharge. So when you decide to do a recharge, try really hard to make time for the recharge. It is an active pursuit to relax. You have to actively do that. You can't just put something else in its stead. And you do that. Yeah, I do it too. Because usually when I'm not like full on in flow, I've got the dog, I got to take her out, I got to go run errands, go to the DMV. I have all this other shit that I need to do that needs to be done, and I'm always running at a deficit on that side. That's just being an adult. There's always stuff that you've got to be doing that requires your attention. So you can usually kind of put that stuff on the back burner when you have your primary gig that is your money maker, right? Bringing home the bacon. You can usually put that stuff to the side, but when you take a break from the money maker, then you feel compelled. Oh God, this thing's been waiting for so long. So it's tough. Make time to do your errands, make time to do the adulting, but you have to absolutely make a concerted effort to relax and to not be working. You need to recharge yourself. So find a time, and even if early on you need to schedule blocks of times to do it. I know you've got a family and everything, so maybe there's like it's mom time and it's a glass of wine in your show or whatever. Doesn't matter. Pick some time to just devote to you relaxing and recharging. And what that does is it will refuel you for the coming tasks, both errands and adulting and your career. So it's really it's undervalued, because as we were talking about on previous episodes, I don't know if you were in on that one arena where we went full on communist and socialist rather, where I was talking about exploitation and things like that. So it comes back to taking control of your own existence a little bit. It's tough, but it has to be done. Difference between professional artists and amateurs is that professional artists just show up. Okay, yep, we agree. You do this too in art realm, but your world, some days you just can't be artist and sometimes not given a choice. Yeah, doctors and nurses get burnt out. Well, yeah, exactly. And that's like what I was saying also, like porn stars. Everybody gets burnout on the job. And it's just, I think if you're working for people that can't be sympathetic to that, they're probably the wrong people to be working with because they're purely exploitative. They're not in it treating you as a human being and understanding. Because I guarantee you, every person that you've ever dealt with has had burnout. Every person has had to take a day and, just cry it out or whatever. That's just being an adult. It's just sometimes you got to take time. So that's an aspect that really people don't really talk about too much, and it's because of our system, it's kind of frowned upon to really take that time. It's a weekend, but at the back of your mind, you're still planning to paint or learn. Yes, work is always at home. That is a very tough thing when we're talking about freelancing, and it's something that I dealt with a lot, even in school. I think I've mentioned before that I used to roommate with Peter Hahn way back in the day, and we literally shared a room, and we had no space. So my bed, the head of my bed where my pillow ended, the computer began. And I mean, I slept on the floor on a tatami mat I'm forgetting the name of those things. Not tatami mat. The fold-out beds, a futon mat. I was on a futon mat and had the keyboard right there at the end of my pillow. So I would wake up and my computer was there, and I'd turn it on and start drawing and painting. Like, that is not healthy. You need a space for work and you need a space for rest. Even if it's in the same room, just make sure they're very far away from each other. Allow yourself the space to not even look at the job. You have to take a break from the job and not be thinking about it. You have to allow yourself a day off. Yeah, Irina. And I mean, I know that at the stage you're at right now, it feels like you can't do that because, it's starting to build a momentum and it's starting to feel like, that things are taking off. But if you're burnt out, if you keep grinding when you're burnt out, you are going to completely destroy the love that you have of it. You won't even be able to attain flow. I've seen it happen to people where they just work and work and work until there is like nothing left for that thing. They despise it and will never do it again. So if you want to maintain a healthy relationship with your work, you still want to love at some level. You'll never love it like you did when it was a hobby. But if you want to, on some level, love being creative, then you have to take the time and give it breathing room. And it's healthy. It would be like driving long distance. You have to stop and take breaks, take a little walk around, get a snack. You have to get away from that thing. We're just not made for this level of constant concentration on a specific problem. Yeah, Peter Hahn and I went to high school together, actually. We grew up together. He's the one that made me go to college. I wouldn't have gone without him. So I owe him a ton. He's a good friend. He's basically a brother. It's easy to start hating it. You have to look after that aspect. If you want to keep this as part of your life going forward, you must take breaks. You must. You don't want to hate it. It will completely ruin it for you. I guarantee it. Just looking to make the my pebble layer a little bit more chunky. Okay. Oh right, I was going to paint a plant. I'm going to paint one plant up so that I know for next time what I'm going to be doing with it, and then we'll probably take a break because I am tired. That's the other thing, push yourself and get that little juice, get the little bit of juicy flow that you can. And if it's still rough, then you got to stop. So that's what I'm going to do. I am tired. I was able to kind of find a good starting spot, and I got enough done. It's one of those things. It's sort of like, leave work at the door, kind of concept, or leave home at the door when you're going to work. You can't bring these things into each other's. You have to be able to compartmentalize work and life. You have to, and especially freelancers. You have to do this, or you are going to be miserable. Let's make sure I have a decent brush for this. Ooh, that's a little too beefy. I guess that one wasn't too bad. Let's just go with what we know. Should allow proper breaks because your breaks are usually chores and cooking. Yeah. Well, again, I know I harp on about the cultural background for how we were all brought up, but sharing the load is not a bad thing. After work, you grabbed a bottle of wine last night. Work was a dumpster fire and you drank it in the shower. Nothing wrong with the occasional shower booze. Oh, hush. You drink beer in the shower too. Seen you do it. Yeah, I have. I saw you do it. Yeah, you can't lie to me. I saw it. Somebody's a grumpy Gus today. I think she's hungover too. Oh, hush. Big baby. You'd be putting in for PTO? Yeah, it's a good plan. Sounds like a dream shower, Adelaide. Yeah, absolutely. Your husband binges on games. Yeah, it is kind of the same thing. That's what I do. Well, games and shower booze together, really. Oh my god. I think these can be grouped. let's do this on another layer, just in case I hate it. You miss pubs, Adelheid? Yeah, me too. Holy crap. I was just talking with my adopting mom yesterday about that. I'm just going and having a beer and chilling, being around people. God, I miss it. I think now, these days in particular, we have to be extra careful and gentle with ourselves because things are just so shite right now. And it's easy to forget and assume that you have to behave and do everything the same as you did in normal times, but shit's not normal right now. So shower wine is a perfectly acceptable way of dealing with things in the current state. Miss travel. Your friend got the first vaccine shot and told you how he did it to travel. Oh, how he got the vaccine shot. I see. You really like the lockdown. Shame on you. I like the lockdown, but I miss the bits of social interaction that I did engage in on a regular basis. Yeah, Irina, it's very different when you're just on your own. Very different. Or worse yet, around people you do not love. Just trying to soften a little bit the form shadows we've got. No, I'm only taking this as far as I am because it's notes for my other plants in the background for our next gathering. Can't see it there. All right, so it doesn't match anything else in that area, but it's my notes for the sort of gross plants that will be in the distance and on the other side. Let's also add a quick line drawing note for the figure if Photoshop doesn't crash on me here. Tell a story today. Your friend went with a colleague for testing. As they were waiting for results, the worker came up to them and was like, "Oh, you were together?" And your friend responded, "Why do we look like we're gay?" But the joke was that now they both get to be quarantined because that friend was positive and his colleague was negative. Oh shit. Nice. Oh, boss's dad died. That sucks. Been on a ventilator and was hoping it wouldn't end that way. God damn. Charlie Air, thank you so much for that follow. Appreciate that. Damn, I'm sorry to hear all that stuff, guys. That sucks. Okay, real quick. We're going to do some line work. Yeah, that should be proper dark. Let's richen it up. Yeah. Kiwi God. Welcome. You were in Mo Kim's class? Nice. Sanabil, welcome. Yeah, I think we had a Red Engine class. Yeah, shit, that was like 8 years ago or something like that. That's great. How's the class? Rod Krieger, thank you so much for that follow. Appreciate that. Donkers, hey, hey. We're painting some creatures. Just rendering primitives. Nice. It's a full 3D class. Oh, rendering primitives is in like painting primitive shapes. That's cool. Very important exercise. They look like kodamas all squished together. Yeah, I like that. It's like a kodama blister. Human Paws, thank you for that follow. Appreciate that. Reminds you of Eustace Infected Toes. Oh. I've only watched a couple of episodes of Courage, so I haven't seen that one. I'll have to look it up. Elephant walrus vibe. Nice. I have to do something different with this leg, I think. The leg's a little bit off. Oh yeah, this looks highly uncomfortable. uh, do a happy head. Okay, I can do that. Oh, thanks, Knox. You get it. Some definitely look sad. Like this one looks sad to me. But let's do a happy one. I tried to do a couple of happy ones. This one was meant to be a little bit more happy. This one too. Make an annoying orange one. I'm sure we can sneak in an Easter egg. It's true, Cypher. If I had not forced myself, this definitely would not have happened. So the question is that good or bad? Yeah, I think that's a pretty good start. We'll have some fun stuff to render and build in the next session. Donkers. Oh no, I'm sorry. Nox, you've redeemed name a layer. My name is Bobby, layer 34. We can do that. My name is Bobby. Done and done. Thanks for redeeming some Zed bolts. All right. You can see a movie where someone raises this thing as a pet. Yeah, and it ends very poorly. Not the mama. It's got a southern accent. See, I have a feeling, yeah, maybe it has a southern, maybe it has a bunch of different accents, and then it speaks all at the same time in like chords. That would be fucking creepy, right? Like 10 different voices in chords, different accents. Ugh. It would be upsetting. Actually, it kind of reminds me of a concept I wrote a long time ago when I first was delving into writing. I wrote a what's the word? A manuscript. I got to like 75,000 words. It's almost done. But you know, I've since read it. It's very juvenile. But there is a character in it. It's a sort of a battle between heaven and hell, classic fantasy tale, but like very heavy on stupid comedy. And I mean, it would. I had not read Good Omens, for instance, American Gods, anything like that yet, but it would have been right in that vein of kind of sacrilegious good stuff. But I wrote this character. One of the demons was I think it was Beelzebub, and I described the character as having multiple heads and speaking in chords, which was super fun. Can only scream. You guys are dark. Come on. Why are you like this? I don't understand. Anyway, good times. All right, gang. Let's see if anybody's on. We can maybe do a little raid action. I think that might be fun. You stick with me for a second. Nobody I'm following is on right now. Anybody got some recommendations for an art channel that maybe we can take our group to? I welcome anybody, if they're live specifically. That's what I want to do with the raid. Yeah, no one I'm following is on. Miguel Iglesias. Okay, let's take a look, see if I can find him. Sweet. It's doing some horror stuff. I think this actually will smooth things over. It will be a smooth transition, rather. So, thanks, gang, for hanging out. Let me set up our raid. Okay, gang. Thanks, as always. Paint smart, paint sexy.